In a world hungry for change, nonprofit impact matters more than ever. Yet, you're asked to do more with less. What if you could do more with more? That's the promise of Bloomerang, the giving platform built for purpose. Fundraising, CRM, and volunteer insights are integrated to reveal opportunity and generosity so you can make more connections with more funds raised for more impact. Now, that's more like it. Learn how you can do more with more at bloomerang.com. Welcome to the Purpose and Profit Club podcast for nonprofit leaders, mission-driven creatives, and social entrepreneurs. Get ready to stop dreaming and start doing. Here, ideas become action. We prioritize purpose and profit. You ready? Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast. We have a very special guest today. I have worked with and been friends with and just swapped stories with Nathan Ruby. He is the executive director of FOTCOH, Friends of the Children of Haiti, for many, many years. He's also an expert fundraising consultant. So we're going to dig into, I feel like you have seen it all, Nathan. And so I wanted to have this conversation about what happens around fundraising, those big, bold asks, what's happening in the body, the brain, those major donor conversations, and how we can make them feel easier and a little less intimidating. And when I knew I wanted to talk about this, I knew you were the one, because you have done this. You are in these shoes day in, day out. And I'm so happy you're here. So I'll let you say hello. Welcome back to the podcast and tell us what you've been up to.
Well, thanks, Christina. And I love being on your show. It's so much fun to get to hang out with you. And, you are still one of the best, not one of, probably the best communications, fundraising, comms, contractor person that I've ever worked with, because you understand communications and you understand fundraising and you understand how nonprofits function. And it's very rare to get somebody that has all of that left brain, right brain. So I love you. I love working with you. And I'm glad to be here today. And what's going on, with Friends of the Children of Haiti, which we'll probably refer to as FOTCOH the rest of the show. You know what? We're just like, it's time of the year. Tis the season. And so we're out there talking to donors and getting our direct mail pieces out and on time, I might add, not late. Thank you, Christina, for that. So we're all fundraising. We're like most organizations. I think in the last 8 weeks of the year, about 38% of our revenue comes rolling in. So it's a critical time of year.
I remember a few months ago, I think I WhatsApped you, and I was talking about this topic, the fear and asks, and you said in your own way that you don't really have that. And I think that you've really walked your entire career in these shoes of, having these conversations with donors who have the capacity, maybe donors who you're upgrading, who are already giving a very generous amount and having those upgrade conversations. Let's kind of anchor into where you were before you got to be confident and courageous in your fundraising, some of the science of what you're finding that other fundraisers are dealing with, where they're really avoidant or feel that tension in the ask.
Yeah, I am I don't know if odd's the right word, maybe atypical. If you ask my adult grown children, they'll tell you I'm odd. But I did not come up the typical executive director chain of command. Typically, executive directors come up through the program side of the equation, or often. I did not. I came through the fundraising side. And so I started my career as a fundraiser, but before I was a fundraiser, I was in sales, and my family owned a trucking business, and so I've got plenty of miles behind the wheel of a semi. But I also ran the sales department, and so that was my primary role.
There it is.
And so that was my background, and so talking to people, a little bit of my personality. I am an extrovert. And so that helps. You don't have to be an extrovert to be successful at major gift fundraising. You don't even get for a second that you have to be extroverted. Some of the best, most successful major gift fundraisers I've ever seen are introverts. And so, but I think it was always been easy for me to talk to people. Sometimes I have to be careful because I could get to where I'm dominating the conversation. And so early in my career, that's probably some of the mistakes I made. I talked too much and didn't listen enough. But I've figured out how to get around that with some coaching and some training. So yeah, and early on, I never was afraid of people telling me no. You hear no all the time. And there's actually a science behind that the fear of rejection, there's neuroscience that shows that social rejection actually activates the same regions of the brain as physical pain. And it's particularly in the anterior, I'm not medical, so cingulate cortex. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not. But that means when we're thinking about like, oh, we got to go see this donor. And what am I going to do if they say no? Or they're probably going to say no. When you're thinking that, that's the part of your brain is lighting up. That is the same part as when you're physically hurt, when you're experiencing pain. So if you usually when I make a reference of something I don't want to do, it's like I'd rather have a root canal than do that. So when you're thinking about going to a donor and if they say no, and the same part of your brain lights up as I have to go get a root canal, well, of course you're going to feel anxious and upset and nervous about making that ask because that's the part of your brain that's lit up.
So I love that you brought in your background in sales. The saying, like, everyone should work in the service industry once, everyone should at least wait tables once. I think everyone, yes to that. And I think everyone should be in sales because that is also, I think, what gave me the foundation of just being totally fine with rejection there was even a part in my career where I was cold calling and it just,
that's
cold
hard.
calling.
That's
and
hard.
if you can close a cold call sale, which I did, like you feel like you can do anything. And you also just feel like you can get through the rejection loop a lot faster. So let's dig into imposter syndrome. Let's dig into what that looks like. I think a lot of people, you said you went from sales to fundraising, but a lot of people, and I've noticed this too, go from programs to fundraising. And they're so deep and entrenched in the program. They get it. Their heart is there. And this is a completely other skill. And so the imposter syndrome really does take the lead sometimes. Yeah.
Actually, Christina, there's some science behind that. And research from the Journal of Behavioral Science, something I read all the time, Christina, found that up to 70% of professionals experience imposter feelings. And and for those of you that don't know imposter feelings or imposter syndrome, it's the belief that you don't deserve the role that you're in or the success. And what they found in this research is that when you go into stressful situations like a major gift ask or talking to a major donor, that actually spikes. And so it's even more acute. It's more, you feel it more when you're coming under these stressful situations. And, the crazy thing about that is and again, that's not something that I've really ever experienced, but I do see it a lot through my wife. My wife is a 35-year teacher. She has her whole career has been with life skills. So teaching life skills to first and second graders. And, she will have classes that are lower than others. Some years the kids are lower, sometimes they're a little higher. But constantly she will come home and say, I'm a horrible teacher. These kids aren't learning anything. And then you talk to the teaching assistants that's in their room and they're like, oh my gosh, this kid did this and this kid did this and this kid did this. And it's like, what are you talking about? And so that is real. And real. People, I think high feeling, which a lot of people coming up through the programs, they are very sensitive. They're very aware of feelings. They're very aware of that. I think they're probably more susceptible to that.
That's a really good point. It's that sort of empath, deeply emotional energy. Yeah,
Yep.
that's a good point.
Yep. And so I think one of the things that you could do about that to help with that is to take the focus off of you. As you are going in and you're talking to these donors, it really you don't have to pretend this. It's actually real. It's really not about you. It's not about what you're doing or your leadership or what you're bringing to the table. The focus has got to be and should be on the people you serve. And you are going on their behalf. And so for a lot of people, I have seen some of the most introverted, quiet, fearful executive directors make massive asks on donors when they finally get it that they are asking for the people they serve, and just like they get up, and they go to work and they work and they fight hard every day to serve these people. Making a major gift ask, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as going to work and doing the program, doing the things that you love for the people that you are deeply moved to help. Fundraising, it's just the same thing. It's just something a little different. So you go into that meeting, into that ask meeting with the understanding and the mindset of, I am doing this to help these people who desperately need to help. It's not about me. And that will help a lot of people kind of get over that imposter syndrome.
Sometimes I will, just to diffuse the pressure, if I have a client who's really stuck in what I would describe as the before, where you just said, they're like, it's really heavy. I'm like, you're not asking for 10 grand to go spend in Vegas. You're not taking the money to go to Vegas for the weekend. In a lot of ways, this doesn't have anything to do with you, right? It's over here, the people you serve. As a pattern interrupt, I'll give them that. So sometimes that's helpful. So I think what you just said is exactly that, is staying on the people you serve can help take you and the pressure of you being central and about it.
Yeah. And the more deeply you are, the more deeply your convictions are for the organization you serve and the people ultimately that you serve, the better that is for fundraising. And that will, if you're looking for a $20 gift and you're sending a letter, okay, you can write that emotion, you can write that intense feeling for the people that you're serving. You can communicate that through the written word. But when you get into a major gift situation where you're face to face with donors, the more passion you have, the more excitement you have, that comes out to donors.
It's magnetic.
Yeah, it is. And so I think that's, every executive director has their strengths and weaknesses. And so that's just playing to your strength. If your strength is making an emotional connection of between the output that you do, the outcomes, not the output, the outcomes of your organization, and then telling that story to your donor, that could be a powerful ask. And then you just got to tack on a couple of sentences on the end and you got it. And so I think by focusing on that just wipes out that whole imposter thing, because you know what you're doing and you're playing to your strengths. So that could make it a pleasant experience instead of an awful one.
So the next thing that this sort of parlays perfectly into is this idea of just culturally, we don't talk about money. We don't talk about, not really, how much people make. We just project. Everything is a projection. So imagine you see your maybe somebody you went to college with, you haven't seen them in a while, and you're meeting them for dinner and they roll up with a really fancy car, right? All of the thoughts we have, great, they make more money than me. Oh, they must have it so good. We have no idea about their debt. We have no idea about anything. Everything is just a projection. And so we have all this cultural discomfort about money. And then we plunk people into a role where their job is to ask people for the most money. How do you reconcile it? How have you dealt with it? And then the other piece is just and then we're supposed to ask them again and again and again. Let's talk about it.
That's awesome. This is an awesome topic. And the answer to the one about your when you went back to your reunion and the one of somebody rolled up in a brand new expensive car, just to let you know that was rental. That was
exactly
rented. So,
exactly. Yeah. It's all exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about that. And I think that it's how was money talked about in your house growing up, and whatever that is, whether that was a positive thing or a negative thing. And my dad was an entrepreneur my entire life. My dad's owned his own business, and so money, when I was growing up, money was, at the dinner table, we talked about investment and cash flow and expenses and profit and profit per square foot. My dad was a car dealer.
That was very unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think you and I are the outlier. My dad did the same thing. I don't know if we know this about each other, but yeah, my dad, he is also an entrepreneur. I remember he told me, he would tell me these numbers, how much he needed to make in an auction, how much it cost him a day to pay and on one hand, that could be like a lot for a high schooler or junior high or, teenager. But on the other hand, it was a peek into talking about money and not a taboo way. So I appreciate it. So we're the outliers.
Yeah. As a fifth grader, I got a C- in math, but I could calculate burn rate.
Yes. There we go.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. And, I could do the math of the important things, right? Don't ask me to build a bridge because my geometry is way off. But, and so so as adults, we bring that into our preconceived ideas and our preconceived answers for what we think our donors are going to do or say before we even walk into the room. And we have this baggage, and I think people of wealth, and we're talking major gifts here. So typically, you're talking to people that have acquired some level of wealth. It might be for your organization, it might be $1,000 as a major gift. For your organization, it might be $50,000. Whatever it is, it doesn't make any difference. It's still relevant. And so, people that have that level of wealth, they did not acquire that without talking about finances and talking about money and having conversations. Even if they inherited it, which most people who have wealth, some inherited it, but most people that you were talking to did not. They had a hand in creating that. And so they didn't get there by ignoring this. They are very normalized in having financial conversations. And the only person who is nervous or feels odd or feels angst is you. The donors that you're talking to are not. And so I think you have to walk into there and say, they know what you're coming for. If you're the executive director of a nonprofit and you have asked them for a visit, they've said yes, they know that sooner or later you're going to ask for a gift. Maybe it's this meeting, maybe it's not this meeting, but they know it's coming. And so you don't have to feel anxious or upset if the person you're talking to is not anxious or upset. And I think another piece of that is also when you're talking to your donors, you look at the ratio between what you want to ask them to do and their top range gift. So if somebody's top range gift is $100,000 gift and you're going to ask them for $1,000, well, okay. There's not a lot of stress there because, they're going to make that $1,000 gift, kind of like, Christina, you and I might make $100 gift or a $50 gift. It's like, if you ask me, if any, I hope my neighbors aren't listening. If any kid comes to the door, and is selling candy, I will buy $25 to $50 worth just because they had the, just because they're out there, they're knocking on the door. My kids did it, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, my kids are in the neighborhood doing it. I'm happy to do that. So if you have a $100,000 donor and you're asking for 1,000, good Lord, there's no pressure there. Now, if you have a $100,000 donor and you're going to ask for 95,000 or 105,000, okay. Maybe there's a little stress there. But then we go back to the, it's not about you. It's about the people you serve. And so that bounces back and forth, but your donors are very willing. It is amazing, Christina, and in my experience and the times that I've done this, what people will tell you if you just ask them. I have donors. One of the things that I use for how much should I ask for is what are the other organizations that they're giving to? Well, how do you find that out? Well, you ask and you just say, hey, what are the other, top 3 organizations that you fund besides us? Never, ever have I had a donor not give me that information. Now, would they have given it to me if I hadn't asked? No, they wouldn't have. But I asked and they answered. And then I'll do the next thing. The next follow up is, well, where are we? Are we like number 1 or are we number 5? And they'll tell you. And so if you're number 3 on the list and you went online and you found out that they made $100,000 gift to their alma mater, and you're number 3 on the list, okay, well, maybe 50 is the right ask, but I could go in with a little bit more confidence because I know I'm in the top 5. I know they love us. I know what they've given in the past. I'm going to ask them to bounce it up, 10%, 5%, 20%, whatever it is. And so when it comes to the taboo of talking about money, I think you just got to get over it. And know that, hey, if you haven't had a good relationship with money in the past, I get it, that's part of it, but it's your donor that you're focused on, not you. And so you've got to put yourself, your glasses on, the lens of your donor and how they view money, not how you view money.
So you said a couple of really smart things, which is, somebody who has that higher capacity, that higher net worth, they're talking about money regularly.
Oh,
right.
All the time.
And so number 1, let's just level set that they're having meetings with their financial advisor. They're making estate plan. Money is something that is not taboo for them. So you bringing up money to them is totally fine. You're asking about the weather, right?
Yes.
And the other thing is that you said that was so smart was this idea of you're not supposed to be a mind reader. The only reason you'll be informed to know how much to ask is because you ask them questions.
Yeah.
And if you ask great questions, people will give you answers, and those answers will help inform your ask.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I have asked donors before. I've literally asked, how much should I ask you for?
Oh, I love that. That's a very you and I style. So it's that's your style. I love that. That's your personality. How much should I ask you for? I love that.
I've also got myself caught a couple of times in that because I've said, I've said it many times to donors, especially donors I don't know as well. I think I'm ready for an ask, but I don't know them quite as well as the donors I've worked with for 10 years. And I said to one donor, we were getting done with the conversation. The visit was over, and I said, "Hey," and I do this all the time to donors. I say, "Hey, next time we get together, I'd like to come back." I was working out of Chicago. Donor was in Minneapolis, so it wasn't like I could just drive down the street. I said, "Hey, I'm going to be back in Minneapolis in a couple of months, in August, I think it was. I want to get together again, and when I do, I'm going to have a proposal with me to ask. Would that be okay?" And he goes, "Well, how much are you going to ask me for?" And I said, I don't know. And I'm like, my brain's like, I backed myself into a corner here. I said, I don't know. And I said, "What do you think?" And he goes, he said, "I asked you first." And I said, I probably in the 10,000 range. And he goes, okay. And so anyway, so long story short, August comes, I go back. I had other donors to see, but I built the trip around him. I got him nailed down first, time wise, and then I backfilled around him. And the mistake that I made was we sat down at the restaurant, and the first thing he did is handed me an envelope, and I put the envelope in my pocket. I didn't look at it. We finished the thing. I made the ask, and we got done. And anyway, the check, he'd given me the check at the beginning of the meeting. There was a $10,000 check. I missed. I didn't ask for enough. He would have given more. And later on, he did give more later on. But the point is I asked him, and you could get away with that if you're genuine about it. And, there are people out there. Bruce Boxon was one of my early mentors, taught me how to do from a fundraising standpoint. And he's major gift guy at Mayo's now. And the guy's a master. He is awesome. And I guarantee you that if Bruce comes to your donor, they're writing him a check. It's Mayo Clinic. He knows exactly what to do. He is really good. Now, not everybody's that way. But what you have to be is you have to be genuine. And if genuine will trump experience every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So if you go in and you genuinely are interact with your donor and say, Mr. and Mrs. Donor, I don't really know. I really, I'm the executive director of this organization. You love us. You've done such a great job funding us. You made such a huge impact in the past. I really, it's my job to ask people for money, and I really want to make a meaningful ask, but I have no idea what to ask you for. What range would be a good range for me to ask? You can literally say that,
so good.
And your donors will answer that. They will help you. You're all right, I'm getting wound up.
That honesty is so magnetic.
Yeah.
People will see how much you care.
And your donor wants you to win. It's not adversarial. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not I win, you lose, you win, I lose. That's not it. They want you to win, because if they weren't interested in your organization and what you do, you wouldn't be sitting down with them. Nobody's going to see you face to face to tell you no. Anyway, so you've got to get in there. You just ask questions, and the donor will help lead you home to the right ask at the right time for the right amount.
That's so good. So that was my next question, which is really, I think we do put a lot of pressure on the ask. We do put a lot of pressure on the meeting. We put a lot of pressure on nailing the right amount. A couple things you said, which is with the example with the $10,000 donor, you realized, crap, could have gotten more.
Yeah.
So yeah. I know you got more at a later date. It wasn't over, right? So it wasn't over. So there's that piece. And what are you finding too, that people think it's all about this ask meeting versus the relationship meeting, which we started to talk about earlier. Let's dig into that a little more.
Yeah. So, the traditional major gift process is identification, qualification, cultivation, ask, stewardship. I was taught that in 1997 when I started fundraising. It's still true today. They call it different names. Consultants come up with fancy new names for old stuff, and then they charge you more for it. not us. No. Other people do that. And so if you do that process right, and especially in the cultivation area where you are building a relationship, you are asking questions, you kind of have a sense of what dollar amount to ask for, what they're excited about. I always use the best example I ever have on this is a symphony. There's lots of different things in the symphony. There's trumpets and there's violins and cellos and flutes and percussion. There's all these different things. And so if you're if your donor's interested in the trumpets, I played trumpet in high school, so everybody's interested in trumpets. That's just a fact. Sorry, flute players. And so if your donor is interested in the trumpets, talk to them about the trumpets. Don't talk to them about the saxophones. They don't care about the saxophones. Talk about the trumpets.
Yep.
And so you know what that is. You know what their hot button is. In the nonprofit world, that'd be just, whatever program they're most excited about, that's what you talk about. How do you find that out? You ask them, Mr. and Mrs. Donor, of all the things that we do, what is it that excites you the most? Duh, it's not that hard. And so when you have that down, you know what to ask for, how much to ask for, if there's any, they've got their granddaughter just got accepted to Harvard and they're paying for it. Okay, probably not the best time to ask for a big major gift. They just sold their business for $100 million and had no debt. Okay, probably a good time to ask. So, those things. And if you've built the relationship, even at any level at all, and when I say built the relationship, if you call them, they see your name pop up on their phone and they answer it, that's a relationship. Because if you call me and your name doesn't pop up on the phone, no way in heck I'm answering that phone.
That's right.
And a lot of the time, if your name does pop up on my phone, I'm not answering that anyway. There's a handful of people that I will no matter what. A lot of them are donors, my wife, my kids, et cetera. So if they answer that phone, that's a relationship. If you've got that, the actual ask it goes back to the money taboo thing. If you're making an ask, at that point, they are making a financial decision in their head. They've already had to have made the decision in their heart that this is an organization I love. This is the program I love. This is where I want to make an impact. That's their heart. That's their emotions. But then when you make the ask, then it goes up to their head and it becomes a business decision. That's where the head gets involved. And so, but that part of it is the smallest part of it. Everything else is the relationship and the emotional side of it. So if you have a strong relationship with your donor, it is that you could mess up the ask, you could fumble, you could say it all the words backwards, and it will not make any difference. It won't. It's just, you just got to get it out. And even if you write it on a piece of paper and let them read it, that'd be better than nothing. But yeah, don't underestimate the level of the relationship, and that trumps how you do the ask.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. Ask imperfectly. The point is ask. The point is ask. This has been like a masterclass on fundraising, major donor conversations, those relationships. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
The only bad ask is the one that you don't make.
Love it. Thank you so much. We will have you back in just a few weeks. We're going to be talking about donor micro events that you have just been so successful in cultivating. So stay tuned for that in just a few weeks. Thank you so much, Nathan. Hey, high achiever. I know your sights are set on ambitious, world-changing goals. In the Purpose and Profit Club group coaching program, you can get the support, motivation, and strategy to accelerate your impact. I like to say it's where the inner work meets big impact and big funding. Go to splendidcourses.com/waitlist, and you will be first to be notified when we open up doors, and you'll get special bonuses when you join our waitlist. See you inside.